All right, let's get into just a little bit of stair building. This house, I have 16 risers. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw that in Sharpie.
Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. In this video, we are going to build some stairs and just go over some very basic layout. This video is sponsored by Huber Engineered Woods, the makers of the Advantech X Factor that you were looking at.
Okay, and so this is my bottom floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Number 16 is my floor system. So we'll just call that floor. Pardon my drawing. Here's a pro tip for you. Always roll your plans up opposite each day. See, that worked okay. That worked okay. Okay, so I have 16 rises that go all the way up. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 8 is the platform. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the platform. So I'm just going to draw the platform. Really? It dried out in the sun that quick? Okay. P for platform. Guess we'll keep it out of the sun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now those are risers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the top of the landing. That's a riser. So now I can go ahead and draw my lower stringer. Isn't that just a thing of beauty? In order to make this all work, I also have, you can barely see it there, a riser line. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the platform. Number 9 is also the platform. I'm going to call that a P. And that makes this a stringer. And of course, my upper plan would show this. I don't need it for this because I know it's 16. I can do the math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the platform. Number 9 is the half platform, I want to call it. It's a step on the platform. So my upper set of stringers is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 risers and 6 treads. My lower one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 rises, 7 treads. I'm just going to write this. 7, that was 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll say 6. Okay, my walls aren't built yet, but they're 104 and 5/8 studs plus plates. So that is 109 and an eighth. 104 and 5/8 studs plus double top plates plus single bottom plate. My floor system is 11 and 7/8 Roseburg I-joist and LVL. We've measured them, they're on site. Plus 3/4 for my Advantech X Factor. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching the video. Hey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and then send it to everybody that you know. Okay, so YouTube is offering something new. I just signed a thing yesterday. It's like an affiliate shopping thing. So what you're gonna see is I'm gonna tag products that we use. You can click on those, you can buy them. It's all gonna take you to Acme, most likely. And that's where I have the whole list of my tools. Because it's an affiliate thing, if you buy, I get a small percentage of that. That's how I support the channel. Of course, feel no obligation to do that, but I did want to explain that if you click the little shopping thing or the products as they pop up, that's how that all works. So let's get back to the video. So 121 and 3/4 is the total floor to floor. 121 and 3/4. That is floor to top of floor. My floor up above is X Factor. All of my risers will be X Factor. My finished floor on the main level is going to be 3/4 inch hardwood, carpet stairs, carpet upstairs. Carpet and pad is also 3/4. So what I have to do, and I'll show you this when we do the stringer, is I have to take whatever my tread number is and subtract it from the bottom. I need to lower the whole assembly because I'm going to promptly add that back on to every one of these. I'm using 2x8 risers, so I also need to subtract that off the back and shift everything that way, because then I'm going to go and I'm going to add each one of these right back on. I'm going to use a 10-inch tread. So we'll say, getting old, 10-inch tread. I'm going to divide this by 16. That gives me about a 7 5/8. The calculator does keep track of rounding, by the way. 7 5/8 is my riser. All right, let's build some stairs. So for stairs, what I'm going to use in this case is 2x12 Doug fir. 99% of stairs we build are going to be covered by carpet. Doug fir is great. It's plentiful here. It's good quality here in the Pacific Northwest. At times we will do a stair that gets covered by hardwood. In that case, I'm going to be really picky. I might even go to the yard and pick up, I want the best of the best in the 2x12. You could also use LVL, and then they're very consistent. This is 2x12 Doug fir. One of the first lessons I was taught in stair building was that when we pick a piece of Doug fir, we want to pick one that's just not loaded up with knots, and we don't want anything with a crack that's running anywhere down the middle. Typically we'll get longer material so we can cut off the ends, because that's a lot of times where it wants to be cracked. The reason why we don't want cracks is because as we lay out and cut the rise runs, that connection point at the base of the rise run, it wants to get weak, crack, and fall off. And there's nothing worse. I was taught to always hand nail my stairs and glue. I don't hand nail, I still glue. Hand nailing, sometimes you miss, or as the vibration would just make the pieces fall off, and then you got to reinforce them, and it's a waste of time. So be very choosy on the material that you're going to use for your stringers. The other thing is I want to cull out anything that has a major crown. A crown is when the board this direction either has a bow up or it could be a bow down. We want them to bow up, and I want the bow or crown facing me as I cut. I'm going to smooth up the bottoms. That way when they get drywalled, it's a nice flat plane. And by the time I cut out each of the rise and runs, you'll see how I do this in this process. Those are going to be identically perfect, or perfectly identical. Meaning that if like one of the three has a bigger crown, doesn't matter if it's smooth here, because when we cut all of these, those will be right on the money. I'm going to crown, like these are really nice and straight, and the reason is this is a select structural. See that stamp? Select structural. So that means the knots are farther apart and they are smaller. And they're pretty straight. Hey, hey. Oh yeah, that is a beautiful piece of wood. Okay, crown toward me. Incidentally, this guy has a crown here. Now I know that I need 70, wasn't it? 7. So on the diagonal, that crown, that cut is going to go away. So I'm going to go ahead and use it. But I'm going to put it on top so that I know where it's at. Okay, so remember our floor was 121 3/4. I always double check myself twice. 109 1/8 is my main floor, plus my floor joist, plus my subfloor. 121 12, I'm gonna just keep that. 121 3/4 is my height, top of floor down to the main floor, subfloor. I'm dividing that by 16 rises. So that means I have a 7 5/8 rise. I'm going to have a 10-inch run. Let's just call it like that. Now, I'm going to say rise, 10-inch run, the diagonal. The distance between the nosing is going to be 12 9/16. By hitting M+, I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to hook this side, and I'm going to mark 12 and 9. Now if I hit plus, recall, M plus, 25 and an eighth, and I'm going to do this all the way down, just by hitting equal, 37 and 11/16 equals 50 and a quarter equals 62.13. So what it's doing is the calculator is keeping track of all of the rounding. 75 and 3/8, 87 and 15/16. Now I'll be, oops, gripes. Oh, it's still there. Recall M plus, plus recall M plus. So what was this? 87.13 or something? 87.15. 100 and 1/2. One more time, 113 and 1. Now I always go way overboard on these because then I just have the whole thing laid out and I can look at the material to see if I need to make a better decision. You don't have to do it this way. You could literally just set your stair gauges and go. I like it because it's a way for me to check my accuracy. I'm going to straighten all these. Notice here, look at that gap. It doesn't matter. I'm smooth on this side. Our lines are going to be identical all the way down. Pay attention to the things that truly matter. This just allows me to kind of keep an eye on my saw, make sure that it's square. Okay, so each of these represents the intersection of the riser and the tread. So I would be 10. Yeah, so there's a couple ways that you can do this. By the way, this is a titanium square. This was a gift to me by Mr. Mark Martinez himself. I am name dropping. I've been friends with Mark for a long time and been super supportive, and he's been very supportive of me for, man, 15, 16, 17 years. I don't even know what it is. So he gave this to me at World of Concrete last year. It has my logo stamped on there and my name. So thank you, Mark. This is like going to be a family heirloom. That being said, it's a rafter square. I like to use it for stairs. You've probably seen me in the past use a pitch block, but I just want to use the square because I just, man, thank you so much, Mark. So there's a couple things to know. I'm 10 inches on the outside. I'm going to go riser here, or I can do them on the inside. You just never want it to go opposite. So if I line up my 10 on this side, then I have to line up my 7 5/8 with that line. And I find that I like to account for the pencil thickness. So there I have my 10 on my mark, and I have my 7 5/8. I'm going to shift that just a tiny bit. Yeah. Now I can put my stair gauges on. And there's a couple things. You could put them on like this. And so essentially what I'm doing is I'm setting the square to my math. Another way to do it is just put the stair gauges on and go. So now I have my 10 lined up, my 7 5/8 lined up, and I'm simply going to mark every one of these. I'm going to slide it down, my 7 5/8. Yeah, there's quarter, half, 5/8. There's 10. I'm just going to mark it. I'm going to do this all the way down. And what I'm doing too is I'm lining up this side as well. Even the stair gauges are doing their job, but I still have to slide it over to line up with my marks. And then this guy is probably not going to work the way I did it with the gauge. So again, I'm just going to line it up here. And my 10 right on the edge, because that's where I measured from. We'll do all of these, and then what I'll do is go through and I'll just measure them real quick. Okay. Again, like, right, you're spending a lot of money on a square stair gauges. Just make it work. The longer the stairs get, the more I would advise going the math first. So 8 5/8. But that's because I'm burning an inch, right? So you get the point. 10 inch. So this is my tread line, this is my riser line. And again, just look at that thing. Then here we go. Okay, so obviously this technique kind of lives or dies on if the saw is square, which is why it is very important to treat your tools well. And I think that if we're not on the money, we are very close to being on the money. Close enough. So if I go ahead and I take a look at these, I think because of my screw, I'm going to go right here. Now that is the bottom. I'm going to use Advantech, so 3/4. So I'm taking off the tread from the bottom because then I'm just going to simply add all of the treads back on. So that's that. I want to cut that one. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 treads. Yeah, I knew I was going to put that screw in the wrong spot. Now I'm going to use 2x8 as my risers. These get a lot of traffic. So 2x8. So this was my original. That's the one I'm going to cut. That's 1.5 inches. So yes, that means that this first one is shorter by 1.5 inches, but then I'm going to add 1.5 inches when I add my riser back on and get us right back to 10. So let me move that screw real quick. Okay, that all stayed nice and smooth. So I'm just going to work my way in the same direction all the way down. Notice I'm cutting right up to the line. I'm not going to overcut. Personally, I don't think it's a big deal if you do. Notice that I've left the plunge loose. That just allows me to stay nice and square. I love this saw so much. All right, we'll work back this way.
Pro tip on efficiency, cut all the treads, then come through and cut all the lines. That way you're working in the same direction. Now, as I'm cutting the risers, I'm not going to cut the line. I want to leave the line, meaning that I actually have to eyeball the edge of my blade to the left of the line. And that just takes a little bit of judgment and getting used to it.
Okay, so let me show you what I'm going to do now. You can kind of see there is a little bit of a crack here, so I'm going to be very careful. Now I'm going to go right back through the same holes here. Same holes, and I'm just going to cut it again. Because this time it will go all the way through.
This Makita XGT saw has a 10¼ inch blade. It cuts, I think, about 3¾ inches deep, but when I stack 3 2x12s, that's going to be 4½ inches. That allows me to fully cut through 2 pieces and about halfway through the bottom piece. But as you notice, I have to connect the dots. That's why I put the screws back through the 2 pieces, cut all the treads, cut all the risers, again, right up to it. Whatever I don't quite get right, I'll take care of in just a moment. I mentioned earlier, I don't really care if these get overcut. I don't do that, but I certainly don't judge the people that do. I think in service, there's really no difference in performance, but it's the YouTubes, and we got to do it clean. Also, this is the way I was taught. So instead of finishing your cuts with a handsaw, which was the way I was taught, I was also taught I could use a reciprocating saw, but it vibrates too much and it has a tendency to break things. I bought this Milwaukee, I think 3 years ago, this cordless jigsaw, because it was like one of our last corded tools. And it clamps that Diablo blade so well that I get perfectly straight cuts. So you notice I'm just connecting the dots again, even though they were connected at the top on the underside due to the curvature of the blade, you know, yada, yada, yada. Don't let the material hit the ground if you can avoid it, because we bend over enough in framing. What's the point of bending over more?
Who wants firewood?
And throw everything away as you go. Really, the main difference between what I'm showing you and maybe what you've done in the past or what you've seen in other videos is we are not cutting a pattern and then using that pattern over and over again. We are laying out one time, clamping everything together, and then we're cutting through. And as long as your tools are square, then it really minimizes the amount of work that we have to do, and we get more consistency.
Put the screw back through these because I really don't want that to break. Should be pretty close. Nice and close. Okay. And there we have identical stringers. So you see here, that's where the material is different thicknesses or crown or depth or whatever. It doesn't matter. We're smooth on the bottom, and now we're nice and smooth on the top. Voila. Oh, for the love of Pete, man.
For probably the first 20 years that I built stairs, we used OSB bullnose. It was 1 inch by whatever, 11½. It has a rounded edge, but it just got soft in the rain. So a few years back, we switched over to Advantech for the treads. Our thinking was, since Advantech's bomber on the floor, and we've been using it since what, like 2006 or 7? Then why aren't we ripping treads out of it? Makes the math easier too, by the way. I have been waiting for a good track saw blade for quite some time. And that's the brand new Diablo. Fantastic. And the Milwaukee saw is fantastic. So is the Makita. I just like track saws. The other way you could do this, I've done this in the past and shown it, is just put a ripping guide on your saw. That's nice and fast. Arguably, it's a little faster. I don't know. It's kind of like whatever you've got close by. The brand of the ripping guide I really like is called the Skate Plate. And if you go to the link in my description, click on the Acme tools. I'm pretty sure I've got it there. Now that all of the treads are cut, it's time to cut the risers. As I mentioned, they're 2x8. I like that because it's a really good connection from the tread to the riser. As traffic goes up and down the stairs, it's also going to flex a lot less, and when there's less flex, there generally is less squeaking or creaking. Often it's creaking, not squeaking. 10¼ inch XGT, same saw I cut the stringers. I'm able to cut 2 at a time. That's just kind of a basic tenet in construction. Gang cut whenever you can. It means less measuring, less movement. The only penalty is the saw is heavier. But I got to tell you, that particular saw, even with the 5 amp hour battery, is lighter than the old Skill 77s we used in the 90s, which were like 16 pounds. So, boy, we've come a long way. We can be efficient without the weight penalty, except for that one pack. And remember, off of the very bottom riser, we subtracted the thickness of the tread, 3/4, which means my riser material also has to be lowered by that. We're going to get that back when we add the tread. So just don't forget that your very bottom or your very first riser has to be cut shorter, just like you cut the stringer shorter for the tread. In this case, the treads are that Advantech X Factor, so it's 3/4. But I'm going to go ahead and scribe an inch and just remove that. I want that riser to be up off of the floor a little bit for no reason than that's just the way I do it. I know it's going to fit the first time, but it's probably not a step you need to take. I got it. I'll just let it flop. If it flops. I always test fit because once you get glue on it, it's not quite as much fun. I really appreciate Brandon turning around, being willing to help, but what I've learned is it's better just to sometimes throw the stuff in, let it flop, and then he's not going to get pinched fingers, or I won't get pinched fingers. A lot of times it's like you go to help somebody and that's when you that's when you just make it harder on them. Plus I want to test fit everything. You can see the glue there. That's the Advantech subfloor adhesive. I don't want to put that down, throw the sheet in, get glue on everything, on myself, on my sweet Nick's Handmade boots there, and then promptly have to just recut the sheet. One thing I forgot to show is that we always nail, yeah, you can see it on the right. We've got a 1x4 between the stringer and the wall. That's 3/4 thick, and that allows drywall to slip down. That just makes the drywaller's life a lot easier. What that also does is mean that I can't just use a standard framing nail and get a good solid connection. So that's why I'm using the 5-inch strong tie SDWS timber screw. You probably have seen this in every video that we do. Essentially, we're lagging or practically bolting the stairway to the wall. Now, the big reason I do that is I don't want any movement between that stringer and the studs.
Of course
That'll cause the creaking sound that I mentioned earlier later, and customers don't like that. How are you going to go about fixing it after the fact? We've gotten very creative. We don't like to get creative, so if we use these on the front end, then we have a nice, strong, solid connection that, quite frankly, is way overkill. But if I'm thinking 50 years down the road, we're really realistically thinking 5 to 10 years down the road, in the time period that we're probably going to hear from the original owners if it squeaked. I mean, not like it would. The reason why we're called Awesome Framers. I don't think I've ever told you guys the backstory to Awesome Framers. If you look back at the very early Instagram posts, everything was tongue-in-cheek and not awesome. It was and still and shall always be an ironic name. Since stairs get so much traffic, I like to use 2x8 for my risers. It's a lot stiffer along the walk line, and it allows a better nailing surface for the tread. Setting them in place just makes the installation go faster. It also allows me to install the glue. This is the Advantech subfloor adhesive, so it comes out as foam, it reduces to polyurethane gel. I used to try to do the vertical face of those cut stringers, but it didn't work as well. It has a tendency to kind of want to just slough off, so by gluing the 2x8, it's a nice horizontal surface. It gives me time working from top to bottom for the foam to reduce to the gel. Then I can just start the installation from the bottom. Couple of tricks to the glue. Make sure that you shake the can for a minimum of 45 seconds, and the warmer it is, the better. We're looking for a dark purple color. It was about 50 degrees that morning, so I left the cans in the sun while I got the stair landing all framed.
All right.
As you can see, I'm using the Passload XP nailer, and that again is just so I'm not dragging a hose through the glue. I'm telling you, no matter how careful I am, I will end up with glue on my hands, on everything. So let's just avoid that. I'm nailing with 3-inch nails. They are not ring shank. I can't remember, they might have been galvanized. It's whatever I grabbed. This connection doesn't need to be a screw, and it doesn't need to be a deformed or like a ring shank or screw shank nail. It just doesn't. That's experience. We used to hand nail all this stuff with galvanized nails thinking that it would move less, but really it's the glue. That also is very dry 2x12 Doug fir stringers and very dry 2x8 risers. It's just not going to move around on us. Again, that's my experience. It's okay to disagree with me. I'm only right like once a year, so you're probably more right than I am. It's the glue to me that is like a, I don't know, what do you want to say, like an insurance or a safety factor. We just want to glue all the connections. Does it actually help? I don't know. I'm sure at some point we ran out of glue and just nailed these things together and they didn't squeak. I just have no recollection. We try to glue if we can. Like I mentioned, that's the Advantech subfloor adhesive. It's a polyurethane, and you've seen in previous videos, I can glue that 2x6 to the floor joist and hang from it. So it's not going to go anywhere. We've had really good success. I think since like 2017, something like that. And since it's a wood product that we're using, sometimes they crack. I think you can kind of see that on that last one. It is what it is. We just do the best we can. We can only do as well as our materials will allow us. That's why we want to cull this stuff to begin with. But sometimes we just gotta get our work done. I've worked with people that just spent all their time gobbing off about the quality of the material. Just get a move on. Now let's get to the treads themselves. I'm going to go ahead and glue the back of the treads. Again, I don't know that this is really a necessary step, but it doesn't take very long. The problem is, right about now is usually when I start to freak out and I get glue all over everything. I'm not kidding. You feel like Michael Scott when he wasn't supposed to do the Chris Rock routine and then he just couldn't stop himself. All of a sudden I'm just twitching all over the place. But anyway, I do that first, let it reduce. Then I start from the top down, the idea being that the gel is going to reduce down to the foam. And you can see it's already happening because it's, I don't know. In the sun, it was probably like 55 degrees. It was a somewhat chilly morning, but not super chilly. I'd say right around 50, 55 degrees. Starting at the top just gives it time to reduce, but then I'm going to immediately start installing them at the bottom. But again, it has already reduced. And in that case, I am going to use a ring shank nail because that's what I have for the pass look. And I'm going to use an 8-penny nail. I don't want to use a nail that's bigger than it needs to be because then you just risk hitting a knot and blowing something out. I think we get the point. I'm not going to show you the upper run, except for the glue. I wanted to show you that we have the LVL to the left that shoots across the hallway, and then our stairs are actually carried by that LVL that runs left to right. And then, of course, I'm going to be standing on that half step on the platform, and so we just have a U-shaped step with one step on the landing. It's nice and sunny, and I don't know about you. I think I could watch this glue being installed all day long until that guy blocked it. But anyway, there's a look at the stairs. You can see the half step kind of just down to my right. Or not a half step, but whatever you want to call that, half platform. Incidentally, we could have framed that as just the platform on the right and then one that's elevated, but it's just as easy to frame the whole thing like you saw it with just a full platform with one on top. And then this is just the top of the connection. I got glue all over the place, I told you. And as it gets hotter, it comes out a little faster. So anyway, that's just how it goes. My favorite comments, of course, to get are, what, you're not good enough, you can't just eyeball that? My answer will always be the same. No, I'm not. I used to be. In all seriousness, though, you can see in real time just how little time it takes. If we're trying to build squeak-free stairs, then sometimes it's these little things. But then again, if you can eyeball it, man, just do it. I did it a lot of years, but every time I missed, then I'd have to pull a nail, and it's like, well, if I would have just marked it, maybe I wouldn't have had to do that. So it could be a wash. Anyway, that is that on the stairs. We're just gonna work our way to the top. Again, the reason why I went with 2x8 risers is because, right, like look at where my foot's at, look at where my left foot's at. We're gonna have a tendency to step right there coming up and down. I want as little flex as possible. 2x8 gives me a fantastic connection point. I'm not gonna split it out, especially if I center it up with those sweet scribe lines. And here is a look of the floor system all framed. It's a small upstairs. Notice that some of the floor framing is 24 on center, some of it is 12-inch on center. I have got a story to tell you about that. That is in a future video. There's the stairway. As you can see, we've got the 7 up, 2 on the landing, and then 6 up. Of course, once the floor is sheathed, then we'll build, I actually think we built the guardrail before that. But there it is. Thank you very much, everybody, for following along. We'll see you all in the next video. Oh, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I mean, you probably already hit it, but just double check for me and hit it again.